Welcome to the NFL Show on the Sauter on Sports Podcast Network. I am Mark Sauter. This is my good guy, Java Joe, and we are back for another week of football talk on the SOS Podcast Network. Once again, this is the NFL Show. Thank you to everyone joining us. First of all, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, Joe. It's good to see you. Thank you for making time for me and for our valued viewers and listeners on this holiday week. As I've said in previous weeks, it might have been last week, this is the one time a year where I get FOMO, and I wish that my family stayed in the United States. I'm not going to get all deep and philosophical. Well, if you stayed in America, you wouldn't have met your wife. Like, let's just pretend everything would be the same. And I was in America. Let's just keep it. Let's just keep it simple. Let's not get crazy. But it is great to be back and talk another week, Turkey Week in the NFL. As always, let everybody know this show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now, with promo code SPORTS10, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off selected cards, and with our promo code SPORTS10 you get 10% off of regular orders and 10% off of sales items, meaning you get up to 60% off selected cards in the First Round Collectibles store. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today, promo code SPORTS10 for 10% off your order and up to 60% off selected cards. And Total Apex Sports, Total Apex Media, shout out to them for having us on board. Football, like I said, Thanksgiving week, whether you're talking betting, whether you're talking fantasy, DFS, or you just want to know about the games, they are your one-stop shop for all of that. Baseball, big signing season. The Toronto Blue Jays getting Dylan Cease. Let's go. I said it on the baseball show at the end of the World Series that my hopes were not high for this team to be competitive next year. Well, maybe I'm changing my tone on that. We'll have an MLB show throughout the winter to talk about all that. Hockey, full swing, basketball, the whole deal. Total Apex Sports, Total Apex Media. All right, Joe. Typically what we do is look back at the week that was and then go over our best bets for the week coming up. However, it's Thanksgiving week, man. Let's just get to Thanksgiving. Let's just talk gambling. Let's talk some betting. Let's talk meat sweats and gambling sweats, the perfect combination. And we're going to get to all of that. However, of course, because I can't just let a statement be, I have to double back on it real quick. There is one thing I want to talk to you about. And it might not be the hottest topic coming out of week 12. It might not be the most exciting story, but I find it really fascinating and I want to talk to you about it. The NFC South is the most maligned division in football, probably. If not the NFC, then the AFC South, but take your pick of the South. And it's those two are just perennially or annually the worst divisions in the NFL. And I want to talk about both those divisions. Now, the South, we're going to talk about a little later on, Houston and Indianapolis meeting up. We're going to talk about that game. We'll hit that topic when we talk about that game. But before we get to the games and Thanksgiving and all of that, I want to hit you up about the NFC South real quick. Did I already ask you how you're doing? Have you even spoken yet in the first 5 minutes of the show? If not, how you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great. This is one of my favorite weeks of the year. Just because sports always has our back, right? Sports, it's a unifier, but
Always.
it also always has our back in the sense that, you know what? Holidays are going to happen and they're always going to provide us with some content. So there's going to be games galore. There's going to be hockey games. There's going to be basketball games. There's going to be football games. Football said, you know what? It's not enough just to have Thanksgiving games. We're going to take over Black Friday too and throw a game on there too. So it's one of the funnest weekends I say, because Thursday through Sunday, there's just going to be banger after banger somewhere because everybody likes to show up for the holidays. So it's exciting. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. I'm ready to lock in.
Oh man, can't wait. And yeah, dude, I didn't even realize that the Eagles were playing Friday. Like I got so much going on right now. I was just like, oh man, like I knew that there were Black Friday games, but I didn't even know what game it was. I'm like, oh, the Eagles play Friday. Okay. Gotta somehow find time for that one. All right. So the NFC South, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, after getting their butts kicked on Sunday night, they are 6-5. The Panthers, after getting their butt kicked on Monday night, they are 6-6. The Falcons, after winning, they are 4-7. 2-9 are the Saints. The Saints are an irrelevant part of this conversation. No hate towards all of my New Orleans Saints fans, which, funny enough, being from Toronto, I have a lot of Saints friends for some reason. I'm not too sure how that happened, but here we are. So my question to you is, Baker Mayfield, have you heard anything? Have we heard anything about his status? There is a good chance that he is going to be out, if not just this week, for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, not a participant today in practice, which isn't great, but also traditionally the Wednesdays are usually the vets usually kind of get a pass on the Wednesdays. So like what Baltimore's been doing with like Lamar Jackson, that's usually the day where it's kind of like light for him. And then they kind of ramp it up Thursday, Friday into the weekend game. So we'll see. I don't know if this is a pain tolerance thing or if this is because it's kind of similar to kind of what uh like Rodgers is kind of dealing with in the fact that it's the opposite arm. So I'm not exactly sure how that's gonna end up working out. Um but what I will say is in agreement with what you've said about this division. This division's usually the division that has the lowest amount of wins as far as the division winners. It's usually the one that's just you could write it in pen as the 4 seed. Like you just boom, just whoever the NFC South winner is, probably the 4 seed, guaranteed. So it's gonna get interesting. It's gonna get interesting down the stretch because each of them have games against each other. They haven't played each other yet. So that's gonna be cool. And then the Panthers have the Rams coming up, and we just saw what the Rams did to the Bucks, albeit, Baker did get out. Did get out at some point during that game, but I thought that game was well in hand by the time that he got out of the picture.
Oh, so, yeah. That game was never in question.
Yeah, so that's the beauty of what's coming up down the pike for those two teams in particular. And if you look at the standings and the point differentials that like sometimes that I do, it's the only division where every single team is in the negative in differentials. So just to add to your point that this is usually the teams that we're less excited to watch.
Yeah. Well, so the Falcons get the Jets on Sunday. Then they play the Seahawks. Then they play the Bucks. Then they play the Cardinals, the Rams, and the Saints to close out the season. So you play the Bucks and you play the Rams, and the Seahawks are going to be a difficult game as well in a couple of weeks. But you get the Jets, the Bucks, the Cardinals, and the Saints to close it out. Okay, that's the Falcons. The Bucks get, just to double check, get the Cardinals this week, the Saints next week, the Falcons, like we said, the Panthers, the Dolphins, and then the Panthers again to close out the season. The Panthers get the Rams this week, as you mentioned. They have the Saints, the Bucks, the Seahawks, and the Bucks again. Right now, I have this pulled up. Just give me a second here. Right now, to win the division, because I don't think any of these teams Specifically the well, the Bucks and the Panthers have the same amount of wins. Um, they, but my assumption would be that none of these teams, more than likely, are making the playoffs without winning the division. That's just kind of what I assume, right?
Yeah.
The Bucks are still minus 600 to win the division. So moving forward, and listen, I know Baker might be out. They're 1-4 in the last 5 games. All this MVP talk for Baker, and listen, if you've watched this show, listen to this show, you know we love Baker. This is no disrespect to Baker. The record, it just is what it is, man. Like, they're 1-4 in their last 5 games. They're still minus 600, right, to win the division. Panthers plus 500, Falcons plus 6,000, 60-1. Is there any one of those two teams that you are taking over the Bucks? And I know the value is what it is, put a sprinkle or whatever. Is there any one of those two teams? I'm not regardless of Tampa Bay's health, but especially with the knowledge that Baker may be out for multiple weeks.
Yeah.
Again, if you've watched this show, everyone knows that I cannot stand the Falcons. I crossed you get shut out by the Panthers. Panthers are a decent team, we have found out, but still, you get shut up by the Panthers. And there was another bad loss in there too that I can't remember now. Panthers or Falcons? Are you taking any one of those teams, knowing the Falcons and the Bucks still play one more time, and the Panthers and the Bucks still have to play twice?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the health is going to be very important here. So obviously Baker's dealing with something, well, with the AC joint, so we don't know, we don't know what his status is, mainly this week and also going forward. But they're also getting Bucky Irving back, right? So,
Yep,
from what I've seen by these trio backs, like, really solid. Tucker had a 100-yard game against the Bills. Bucky Irving, when he's healthy, he can go. Rashad White, I think, is a really good number 2. So like I like him playing the RB2 role when either one of those guys are going. So there is a world that exists that if TB's got to get in there and get you a couple of games while Baker gets 100%, there's a world that exists where that could work out, where that could happen. My problem is, if I'm going to choose, just Bucks flat out, or one of the other two teams, the Panthers have a shot. The Panthers have a shot.
They do.
If you see what they did to what they did to Brock Purdy in that first in the first early part of that game, and what they're able to do running the football. Chuba Hubbard was a top 5 back last year. Dowdell was a top 5 back this year. Like, they have guys. Ted McMillan's a wide receiver 1, without a doubt. He's crushing it. The only thing that would give you pause, obviously, is quarterback play. But I think it wouldn't be unrealistic to say the Panthers have a shot at taking them for that division, especially when they have 2 games against them coming up.
Yeah, dude, my thought exactly, man. Like, I think, we tend to, at least for me, I just completely forgot about this. I completely forgot about, I just, it's a formality at this point that the Bucks are just going to win the division, right? You have that thought, the Bucks are going to win it. The Bucks are going to win it. You look up, they're 1-4 in the last 5 games. The Panthers, listen, I don't trust, how do I say, if you frame it as in who do I trust? I trust the Bucks more than I trust the other two teams. However, the Bucks, they've been battling hospital visits all year long. Eventually, I think that that kind of that, you know, putting up with that week after week after week, I think the floor can kind of cave in a little bit. I don't trust the Panthers. I don't trust the Falcons. However, I do think it's a reasonable conversation to have that one of these two teams can reach up and take the division from the Bucks. 100% one of these two teams can do it. Who do I trust? I'll still go with the Bucks. But if I have to choose, like you said, I just think, and the other thing too is, you know, what really drives me insane about this, Joe, what gets under my skin about this is at plus 6,000. Okay, and you can kind of forget about the odds, but especially with those odds, with that 60-1, this should be the Falcons. Like, yes, you named the talent that the Panthers have. You're 100% right. With the talent that the Falcons have and the weapon that is Bijan, this should be the Falcons all day. But I just don't trust their coach to actually put, Bijan, like, I don't know. I'm not going to go back. We can look through the schedule. I bet you there are 2 losses minimum where if they just gave the rock to Bijan and let him milk the game, they probably would have won. There's definitely 1 for sure. Maybe 2. I don't know. I don't trust either of those 2 teams. The Panthers go out, they beat the Packers, then they get their teeth caved in by the inevitable Niners, apparently, who just doesn't matter who you take off that roster, they're just going to win, apparently. So I don't know. It's super interesting. For the value, I think it should be the Falcons, but just from what we've seen this year, it's just hard to trust it.
Well, yeah, that and the fact that you got Kirk Cousins going the rest of the year, so that
fair.
Yeah,
that is fair. Yeah.
With that being the backdrop, like obviously he's a veteran. He's gonna put you in positions to be successful, but he's also gonna put you in positions not to be successful, as we've seen now. Last year he was hurt. He played hurt. He knew he had a first round drafted quarterback behind him, so he wanted to play as well as he could, even with the health situations, if only to keep his job. Which again, he didn't find out until a phone call right before they made the selection. So, he came in with a whole different confidence when he signed his contract than what he felt that maybe 20 minutes before the Penix pick. So take that as you will. But that being said, they're going to have to go on a tear the rest of the season in order to put themselves in a position to do so. And do I think they have the talent offensively? Absolutely. Were they getting to the quarterback pretty consistently for a stretch? Absolutely. But can you trust that all together on a game-to-game basis from here on out to the rest of the for the rest of the year? I don't think you can say that. Which is why I think they will be the third place team when we get to the end of the season.
Yeah, and I do think for the Panthers, and I don't want to spend a bunch more time on this stupid division, but I do find it really interesting. Like we talked about, they play the Rams. Okay, that could be slated as guaranteed win night for the Rams. Short week for the Panthers. However, I mean, we both of us watch sports a lot, not just the NFL. Okay, this to me is a classic, and I don't know who the Rams play next after the Panthers, and I feel like you need to know that in order to call it a trap game. However, everything is coming up Matt Stafford right now. Everyone's calling the Rams the most complete team in football, and I agree. Everybody is talking about Matt Stafford, favorite for most valuable player. Everyone is talking about this dynamic duo, Devontae kicking it old school every single week. Puka Nacua, obviously, the running game has started to come alive. The defense is still phenomenal. Everything's coming up Rams right now, and especially in a big spot Sunday night, the beatdown that they put on the Bucs. It just feels like a perfect spot for a letdown. You know what I mean? So I'm not automatically saying I'm not saying the Panthers are going to win. I'm just saying this is not as automatic of a win as you might think. After that, like we said, man, Saints, Seahawks, Bucs twice. If you win 3 of those remaining 5 games, you probably win the division. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, with the talent, even with Kirk Cousins, it should be the Falcons at plus 6,000. But I think it's worth taking a chance on the Panthers. And we'll see what happens moving forward. All right, let's get to it. Turkey Week, Thanksgiving in the NFL, starting tomorrow at 1 o'clock. The Green Bay Packers in Detroit for the first game. Sorry, my eyes I got distracted by, is that right? I know the records are what they are, and the Bills lost again last week, but New England Patriots minus 650 favorites now to win the division. Wow. That didn't take long for New England to bounce back, eh? A few years.
A little hiatus, call it a little mini vacation. It's just we'll lose for a little bit. We'll let you think we're done. And then you know what? We're going to come back 3 years later, another 20 years on top.
No big deal. No big deal. All right. Green Bay Packers, Detroit Lions. Lions minus 2.5 favorites. Minus 154 on the money line, plus 130 for the Packers. Minus 2.5 is minus 122. Plus 2.5 is plus 100. Some good value on that for the Packers. Over 48.5 is minus 104. The under is minus 118. All right. So the Lions win a game against your team that they should have lost, if we're being honest. You watched the game very closely as a Giants fan. They should have lost that game. The Packers beat the Vikings in a spot where I just listen, man. McCarthy is just brutal. Not playable right now, man.
Brutal.
It's brutal. Just not. And so, I don't want to take anything away from the Packers. They earned it. They deserve it. But you beat a team with the performances like McCarthy's rolling out week after week. It just doesn't really speak to me. And, that loss that they had to the Panthers, the loss that they had to the Eagles, where the defense kept the Eagles in check, quite frankly. A defense keeping the Eagles in check doesn't really impress me much either right now, even with all the talent that the Eagles have. I don't really know what to make of this Green Bay team. Like I've said since preseason, I've literally said this since preseason that I don't know what to do with this team. Like not love has been my motto when it comes to the Green Bay Packers. The Lions, on the other hand, they won the ball game. Okay. They won the ball game. That's important. Williams, 0 catches. And I am biased on my frustration about this because I'm in 2 fantasy leagues. I have him in both, and I lost both games by 8 points. 8. All he had to do was catch like 5 passes, and I would have won both my games. But anyway, I digress. You watched the game, man. The Lions should have lost that game. If I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure. Like, didn't they give up like the defense give up like 500 yards of offense to your guy Jameis Winston. And the Giants, I could be wrong about that, but I think that's correct. Talk to me about this game, dude. I think I'm going Detroit. I don't know. Minus 154 isn't terrific value, but I think it's good enough that I'd rather go with the money line than the spread. I don't trust either of these teams right now. But I think I trust the Detroit offense a little bit more than I do the Packers. But either way, I'm not too sure. Either way, too, I know that the Lions defense just got lit up. I feel like this is a sneaky under game. I feel like both offenses are, I don't know. This feels sneaky under to me. 48.5. But I think I'm taking Detroit on the money line, but I don't really trust where either of these teams are right now.
Yeah, my lean was Lions here. I had it in my head ever since the beginning of the season that they would split. Green Bay got the early one. And that's when Detroit had run on that run afterwards to sort of reprove that, hey, listen, like we're still the Lions, relax. So I had it in my head that this was going to be a split all the way through. So my lean's Lions minus 2.5. Listen, we don't know what the status is of Josh Jacobs is yet. Emmanuel Wilson did a great job last week, had a buck, 2 touchdowns last week. So he's definitely he definitely can be the guy if need be this game as well. But it's Thanksgiving, and these teams who traditionally play the Detroits, the Green Bays, the Dallases, these are staples of the Thanksgiving game. The Bears circle in there sometimes. So I think they're going to both come to play. I'm also leaning towards the under here. I think they're going to be back and forth as far as defensive stops. So much so that even though I'm picking the Lions to win, I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to go off as he's gone off, at least running the football. So I have his under 74.5 rushing yards. If that number was a little bit closer to 60, I wouldn't have pulled the trigger on that. But at 74, I think he's going to come in a shade under that. And I think we're going to see more Montgomery in this game as well. I think they need to be able to pound in between the tackles, which good for them. That's about to get a whole lot easier because their boy Ragnow's coming out of retirement. Early reports are going to say 2 weeks from now. They're earmarking, I think, the second week of December, the Chicago Bears game for his return. But running in between the tackles are about to get a whole lot easier for the Lions if he can come back to form. But give me the Lions minus 2.5 and Gibbs under 74.5 rushing yards.
And you know what, man? Like, this is not. Well, first of all, pay attention to this guy's bets because he is having himself quite the year. He posted on X recently his spreadsheet. Check him out. He's doing some great things. This is not just about the division anymore. This is what I find really fascinating about this. Like we just assumed, Green Bay, Detroit. Chicago might be hanging around. I picked their under. I didn't think they would be hanging around. This isn't hanging around at this point. The Bears are currently leading the division, right? 8-3, Green Bay 7-3-1, Detroit 7-4. This is not just about the division anymore. This is legitimately to make the playoffs. Like, this is a massive, massive game. Just to take a quick look, that is the division. The conference right now, Rams number 1 seed 9-2, Philly 2 seed 8-3. So Friday's game, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes, is basically as of right now it is for the 2 seed right now. Chicago 8-3, 3rd seed. Tampa Bay 6-5 in the 4th seed for that division. You have the Seahawks 8-3, Green Bay 7-3-1, San Francisco 8-4. Like, Detroit is currently outside of the playoff picture. Yeah. So this is a massive, massive game. I think we all thought, Green Bay, Detroit, Thanksgiving for the division. No, man, this is for your playoff life right now, which I find very fascinating.
I think it's pretty much safe to say the wild cards are going to come down to the NFC North and the NFC West.
Yes.
Your NFC East not getting a second team, NFC South not getting a second team. So basically, it's going to be a fight between the West and the North as far as who gets those spots.
Don't say that to Dallas, man. Like I
cover.
Fair. Oh, dude, I think it's ridiculous. I cover the Dallas Stars for the Hockey Writers. I pay attention to a lot of Dallas media, and everything is about how this team believes, and it's KC. They're nothing. It's those guys in Dallas. I'm not even talking like they're ready to go to war, bro. They believe it. They believe it. Speaking of which, Kansas City -3.5 in Dallas, Jerry World. Speaking of which, a little shameless plug. I wrote an article for the Hockey Writers. AT&T Stadium will be hosting a Stadium Series game for the NHL next February 20th, and the opponent for the Dallas Stars has yet to be named, and I wrote a great piece about the top 3 teams that I think they should play. And if you remember, again, I don't know how many viewers here care about the NHL, but the Detroit Red Wings and Columbus Blue Jackets played a game at Ohio Stadium last year, citing the rivalry between the Buckeyes and the Wolverines. And I made an argument why the NFL and the bigger sports landscape of Dallas should be taken into account in choosing the opponent for the Dallas Stars for the Stadium Series game at AT&T Stadium. So that's a little hint of who I think is the number 1 team. I think it would be amazing. If you care at all, check out my ex, Solder on Sports, and I wrote about that yesterday. All right. Kansas City -3.5, +100. Dallas +3.5 is -122, -178 for the Chiefs on the money line, +150 for the Cowboys, over 52.5 at -110, under 52.5 is also -110. What do you got? Kansas City, Dallas defense, again, hearing a lot. Listen, the Eagles, I wouldn't say that they did what they want in the first half, but they put up 21 points, up 21-0, shut them down for the second half. Again, I don't put a lot into that, just because this Eagles offense, it's what we saw in the first half. What's that?
It's got problems.
What we saw in the first half from the Eagles offense is not what we've seen for the last month. So it didn't really it shocked me that they ended up losing the game. The Eagles find ways to win those games even with their deficiencies. But to cough up the lead, it didn't really blow me away that much. So their defense has been clicking. At least last game, Quinn Williams looked great. This Dallas offense is clearly the strength of this team. Not saying anything crazy about that. In Kansas City, listen, man, that there's a conversation out there about, as there is usually with stuff like this, was it that, the Colts lost the game, or did the Chiefs win the game? And I would say both. I think the Chiefs, that's a really bad loss for the Colts. Really bad loss for the Colts. But the Chiefs dug down, they showed their championship pedigree, and they found a way to win the game. What do you got, man? Kansas City, Dallas, -3.5. Total 52.5 as well.
All right. So we talked last week before that Philly game, and I kind of confidently picked the Cowboys plus the 3. And after seeing the injury report today, I'm kind of confidently picking Dallas plus the 3.5. Listen, Trey Smith is out. Their best lineman is out for this game. And guess what the strength of the Dallas Cowboys defense is now? The interior of their defense, the interior line. So that means they're going to be able to get pushed up the middle. It's going to make Mahomes go a little bit more off script than he'd like to. They might get Josh Simmons back at left tackle, so that could help. But if he gets bum rush up the middle, you got Kenny Clark going out there. You got Obi out there. You got obviously Quentin Williams out there. It could make things very, very interesting. And listen, they don't have outside running backs, okay? If they're running the ball, they're going to run the ball down the middle. Hunt's not an outside zone guy. Pacheco's not an outside zone guy. I mean, Brashard Smith could run outside, but they don't trust him enough to carry more than maybe a handful of carries. So that means if they're running the ball, they're running it into the strength of the Dallas Cowboys defense. So that tells me that the Chiefs are in trouble. And it's Jerry World, and it's Thanksgiving, and he's feeling himself. The team's feeling themselves. The vibes are high. Give me Dallas plus 3.5 as a Giants fan. Ooh. Kills me on the inside. But I have to go with what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a team that has the momentum, that knows every game's a playoff game for them. And they have to win every game. They have to, because if we look at it right now, we just said it in the previous segment, odds are that the wild cards are coming out of the North or the West. No one's looking at the East and the South for a second team going into the playoffs. So I think they're going to use all that as fuel. So shout out to them because they showed up last week in that second half and pulled it off. Give me Dallas plus 3.5. I'm going to take Javonte Williams under 68.5 rushing yards. I think the Kansas City defense in the interior is pretty stout. I know the momentum's on Dallas, but I think because they have two number ones at wide receiver, I think they're going to try to throw it around the yard. And I still believe second corner, just like the same thing that I felt about Philadelphia in their second corner position. I still think the second corner position for Kansas City is a weakness, and I think they'll be able to take advantage of that with CeeDee Lamb and with George Pickens.
Yeah, and I mean, it's these next two games for the Cowboys are the big ones because they got the Chiefs this week. They have the Lions next week. All right. Now, we've said what we said about the Lions. Still a hard out, obviously. And as we said in the last game, the Lions are fighting for their playoff lives too. So that's going to be a really good game. After that, they have the Vikings, the Chargers, the Commanders, and your Giants, which are all winnable games. All winnable. Now, 9-8, or I guess, 9-7-1, right? Because they have that tie in there. It's not going to get you into the playoffs in this conference like this year, right? So you're essentially... maybe you can give up one of these next two games, maybe, but realistically,
you'd want to give up this one, right? Because you want to win against a team that you're fighting with directly for a playoff.
100%. However, you kind of have to win out. Like you could, in theory. If you lose this game, you beat the Lions next week, depending what happens with them tomorrow. Okay, there's a chance, but realistically, you got to win out. Yeah. And so, big two games. I want them to lose, not even just so they don't make the playoffs. I just don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about the Cowboys, man. We all know what's going to happen. They win out, they make it. They're going to lose in the first round. I could care less. I don't want to hear about it. But hey, man, you got to give props where props is due. They got the win last week, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. All right, moving on. Cincinnati and Baltimore, and I am super torn when it comes to this game. Ravens -7, -112, +7 for the Bengals, -108, -350 on the money line for the Ravens, +280 for the Bengals. Over 51.5, -115, unders -105. Joe Burrow's back. I don't know how much that matters. This defense is still a disaster. However, and also, like Joe Flacco's been putting up points, man. I know they only put up 20 points against the Patriots. That defense has really come into its own in New England. And I mean, the Patriots only scored 26 points, right? That game was right there for the Bengals. Are we going to get, I mean, Joe Burrow hasn't played in what, 2 months, 2.5 months? Like, what Joe Burrow are we going to get? I know he's a generational talent. I know at his peak, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. If you said he was the best quarterback in the league, I wouldn't agree with you, but I wouldn't argue you. You can feel that way. What Joe Burrow are we going to get? It's really hard to say. That being said, Joe, talk me out of this belief if you disagree with me. I don't think Baltimore's very good. They're a good team as far as they're probably going to win the division. The much predicted or much anticipated Pittsburgh fall off is currently commencing. We're going to talk about Pittsburgh later, although they won over the weekend. I think they won over the weekend. But Baltimore, they won and they're winning, but I'm not overly convinced that this team is this. Even though they've won a bunch of games and they're back in the mix, I'm not convinced this team is some sort of juggernaut that we're supposed to fear just because Lamar Jackson's back. I just don't. So to me, this is a +7 play. I think the spread is too high. Division rivals on Thanksgiving, Thursday night. Joe Burrow's back again. What does that mean? I don't know. I know Baltimore's defense has been playing much better, but I don't think Baltimore is this team that should be feared. And to me, I think the total's too high. I think we're going to see a dogfight. I'm taking Cincinnati +7, but I'm kind of conflict about it. I'm not overly confident about it. What are you seeing as we look at Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, between Cincinnati and Baltimore? Baltimore -7, total 51.5.
Yeah, I mean Cincinnati +7 for me. Listen, the two games they played last year, 35-34, 41-38, both Ravens victories. Not much has changed for either defenses. If we're being honest. Neither defense has really changed much. Zach Orr still much maligned over with the Ravens. Play calling on offense much maligned with the Ravens. Listen, that offensive line is a disaster, and the only thing worse than their offensive line, speaking about Baltimore, is the Cincinnati defense. So right now, we have a situation where we usually see strength on strength. What we're seeing is weakness on weakness, and we're gonna see which lineup is weaker, the Baltimore offensive line or the Cincinnati defense. Listen, Lamar Jackson does not look comfortable in the pocket, and it's probably ridiculous to think that he's going to be 100%, given what he's coming back from and having to kind of will his team to victory. So I think it's gonna be a back and forth affair. Um, I I don't what's the over 51.5. When
Yep.
you see what those games were last year, you kind of understand why that number is that number, especially with both defenses not being very spectacular, for lack of a better term. So um it might be right around that, to be honest. I could see a 28-25 situation, a 30-27 situation, where it just eclipses that number, just because I don't trust either of those defenses. But
Fair.
listen, for the vibes, they're not going to make the playoffs. But you know what? They're also not going to go down and just take it, especially with Joey B at quarterback. So I think he makes it interesting. I think we're looking at somewhere in between 3 and 7 points if Baltimore is going to win the game. So I'm going to take Cincinnati in the points. I'm also going to take Lamar Jackson's over in passing yards, 234.5. May seem obscene, but when you've been watching the Bengals defense all season, you
Yeah,
kind
it
of
feels good.
understand that this is probably going to be the play. And then when
Yeah.
you've got guys that um the best of the worst in like Cam Taylor-Britt and Trey Heggerson both being out in this game. So now you're talking about your number one corner and your number one defensive player not playing in the game. It's a recipe for success if you're the other team's offense. So Cincinnati +7, Lamar Jackson over 234.5. I still think Baltimore wins the game because as a whole, I think they're a better team. But I don't think they have the ability to separate um, unless it's against a team that's completely absent quarterback play, which won't be the case in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. All right, moving on. Chicago, Philly on Black Friday. Before we get into this game, I want to throw this out. Packers +135 to win the division. Lions +165. Bears +270. And the reason why I throw that out, Bears +270, is because I think that this spread -7 is too high. I don't agree with it. I think, listen, it's hard to really predict what the Eagles are going to do at this point week after week. I do think that this defense, listen, if you're the Eagles, you constantly give the ball back to the Packers or to the Cowboys, whether it's turnover or whether it's on downs or whether it's 3 and outs or whatever. This defense can't just carry you week after week after week. You eventually, as an offense, have to step up. AJ Brown said as much a couple weeks ago. I think that this defense is really well suited to beat the Bears. I do think that this defense will take care of their business against the Bears, and I think the Eagles win this football game. The money line will tell you as much, -360 for the Eagles to win this game. However, I think that the odds makers. And listen, the division odds are what they are, not just because of the Bears, but because of the Lions and the Packers. Obviously, I understand that. I do feel like this team is being a little bit disrespected in the markets, but I also think that Eagles -7. Like, has anyone watched this offense? Like, what am I missing right now, man? Like, I don't. Yes, on paper, -7. Yes, it should be -7. But based on what we've watched the last month, I just don't understand it. I don't see it. Yes, it's at home. I just think it's too high. So with that preface, Eagles -7, Chicago +7. They're both -110. So as far as the odds go, it's even money both ways. -360 on the money line for the Eagles, +290 for the Bears. Over is 44.5, -105. for the over, minus 115 for the under. Do you agree with that, Joe, or like what am I missing here?
Yeah, for me, this is crazy to have Chicago -7 here. Um, with how Chicago's won football games, with how effective they are running the football, with what we're seeing in Caleb Williams actually throwing on time, um, and his ability to improvise when when a play is not altogether there. I think a lot of this has to do with having a lot of respect for a Vic Fangio defense, having a lot
Yep.
of respect of what he's able to do with his defense. But one thing that they have to understand is that this is a top 10, this is a top 5 offensive line in the league. They have 2 running backs that can go for 100 at any point. Um, I think Kyle is a really good running back. Watched him at Rutgers. Couple of weeks ago, he had a buck and a couple of touchdowns. Um, while Swift was out. So I just think with what they're cooking over there, with Ben Johnson's experience having to play against this team, they Detroit and Philly in the thick of things. Um, in the NFC. I just think he has enough intel, enough dogs on the offensive side to compete with Philly to where it's not a 7-point difference. So give me Chicago +7. Um, and my favorite prop pick, which obviously where I'm gonna go, Saquon Barkley under
Yeah.
75.5 rushing yards. He hasn't done that but twice this season. Why this line is at 75.5 is crazy to me. And I don't know what it is in other books, but on my book, when I saw 75.5, and I know for a fact that he hasn't done that in but 2 games this season, that was an easy choice. So Chicago +7, Barkley under his yardage, which is 75.5.
Yeah, listen, man. I do think. So the one thing that I'll say about the Eagles, all right, is that they find ways to win football games. Take the spread out of it. In the last 3 seasons, they just win every week. They find ways to win. That's why I was a bit surprised as to what I saw on Sunday, with not scoring in the second half, like at least getting a field goal or 2, like not scoring a touchdown in the second half, like unfortunately not the most surprising thing in the world, but not finding a way to get any points, and let the Cowboys come back and beat you. I think that game on Sunday is one of 2 things. I think, because I still think this is, I think the problems that they have on offense, I think are fixable. The talent that you have,
super fixable.
there's a way, 100%. I think that game on Sunday, though, and maybe I'm being dramatic, but this is how I feel, is one of 2 things. Either it's the loss against the Niners 2 years ago when you were 10-1, but things did not look good. You lost to the Niners, got destroyed by the Niners, and then that submarine your season. Or that is a galvanizing point where you get your act together and become the Super Bowl contenders that everyone thinks you are. And I'm very curious to see what we see. Black Friday, you're the only game at home, big spot. And so I'm curious to see. And as a football fan, like I watch as much football as I possibly can. But I'm really curious to see the Bears, because this is a really hard team to buy into, but they're finding ways to win every week. Yeah. And so I'm really curious to watch, just from a fan observer. I wouldn't call myself like like analyst by any means, but I'm looking forward to seeing the Bears as well.
One last point here, and it might be worth taking a look at. Riddled with injuries on the linebacking core are the Bears. So if you're looking for an alternative, more positive aspect of the Eagles, take a look at Dallas Goedert's numbers and his line. With them being depleted there at the linebacking core, he might be able to win matchups against backup linebackers, and whether that's receptions, whether that's yardage, that may be something their OC may want to take advantage of.
Absolutely. All right. Next up, Houston at Indianapolis. And this was the second thing I wanted to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about the NFC South. I want to talk about this division as well, because, the one thing that I love about the NFL, but I also hate about the NFL, is just the week by week roller coaster. We lift this team on a pedestal, and then they lose a game in a certain way, and then all of a sudden, all hell's breaking loose. And I think that's what makes the NFL fun, but I also think it's ridiculous. At the same time, you lose one game that doesn't define you as a team. However, I want to run this by you. I know that they're the Chiefs, okay? But you coughed up a big lead in a big spot. And that was a game that you should have won. I don't care who's on the other side. I know it's the Chiefs. You have that lead, fourth quarter. You got to buckle down and find a way to win that football game. This isn't hockey. You don't get an extra point for going to overtime. You lost the game. They are 8-3. Jacksonville 7-4. Houston is 6-5. Houston has really been picking it up. They are 4-1 in their last 5 games. Both Indianapolis and Jacksonville are 3-2 in their last 5 games. Houston, Davis Mills, who knew? The catalyst, the hero they didn't know they needed, has stepped up. And if CJ Stroud's available, he will play. But all of a sudden, Davis Mills is not, guaranteed loss night. So for the division, Colts are minus 220. Jacksonville's plus 280. Houston plus 750. Let me throw this out to you real quick. The Colts, they have the Texans, so big spot. They have the Texans this week. They have the Jaguars next week. Seahawks week after. Niners, then the Jags, then the Texans. So they play the Texans twice, the Jags twice. Mixed in there is the Niners and the Seahawks. That is a schedule. That's a tough schedule, man. They are 8-3. You got 4 divisional games, and the Seahawks and the Niners sprinkled in there. That's a really tough stretch to close out the season. The Jags, on the other hand, have the Titans, the Colts, the Jets, the Broncos, the Colts, and the Titans to close out the season. Titans twice, Colts twice, Jets, Broncos. Much easier stretch for the Jags. The Texans have the Colts twice, as we've already said 5 times. The Chiefs next week, that's a tough game. The Cardinals, the Raiders, the Chargers close the season out against the Colts. I think that, and again, this is not groundbreaking, okay? I I'm pretty confident in saying whoever wins the division goes to the playoffs, which is obvious. But if you don't win this division, you probably miss the playoffs. Probably. Not guaranteed. Probably. Colts minus 220, Jacksonville plus 280, Texans plus 750. All right. Quick answer, because this is a two-part question. Quick answer. Colts, Jags, Texans. With those odds I laid out in front of you, who are you picking to win the division? You can unpack your answer later, but just quickly, who do you pick to win that division? Colts, Jags, Texans.
Yeah, I'm still on the Colts. Like they have for me what could be the offensive player of the year. Some people may argue, well, I don't know. Do they still separate NFC and AFC? Like for player of the year, is they just one? I know at one point they did, but I don't know if they still
I don't
do.
think they do. I don't think they
if
do.
they don't, I still think the tear that Jonathan Taylor's on, like I just feel like they invested to win in this stretch of football. Like there was a very interesting quote that I saw online when it was discussed about the Gardner deal. I don't know how true it is, but there was like a quote from Carly, who's Jim Irsay's oldest and the CEO of the team. She's the one that's always wearing the headset on the field.
Yeah.
She said, "Do you want to put a Band-Aid on the problem or solve it long term?" So like there's just a new mentality in the building that said, we're not just going to slap Band-Aids on issues. We're going to try to solve the problem for today and moving forward, which is why they made the Gardner deal. They also made the Gardner deal probably in anticipation of what they're going to be looking at the rest of the season, right? So you said they have the Seahawks coming up, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that they're better prepared for JSN and Rashid Shaheed having Ward on one side and having Gardner on the other, as opposed to not? Like for me, I think they set themselves up to be able to handle this stretch. Now, that being said, they need DeForest back ASAP. DeForest Buckner is a need in the middle of that line because it frees Latu up from running into too much beef trying to get to the quarterback. And what that then also does is it doesn't keep Gardner and Ward on an island longer than they have to. A lot of what was happening against the Chiefs is they were running these mesh concepts where they were just rubbing the corners into each other, and Rice and Worthy are on the other side open because they're having to chase all this time. Why? Because they have time. I think that's going to be key for them. So I hope they get him back ASAP. But I just feel like the run that they're on, I'm going with the Colts. It's been far too long since they haven't won the division. It's literally a running joke on the Pat McAfee show how long it's been since they won the division.
Yeah.
I think they split with the Texans. I think they get this game, lose the one at the end of the season. But I still think they win the division. So to parlay that into my pick, Indy, I'm taking -2.5 though. I'm gonna bring that down to -2.5. I think 4.5 is a little too rich with how they're playing football. It's touch and go. They're either losing by this much or winning by this much, right? So like I think for me, they're in that wheelhouse where they're fighting tooth and nail against the good teams. So being that this is a good team top to bottom, I'm going to give them a respect and bring it down to -2.5. But give me the Colts there, and I'll also give me the Colts under. As far as Jonathan Taylor, under his rushing yards, 83.5. That number, if it was somewhere in the 70s, I might have not taken it. But that defense is the real deal. Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson. There's scuttlebutt says Will Anderson and the team are going to try to come to an extension at the end of the season. They need to, because they're beating you with speed. They're beating you with power, swim move, bull rush. They are beating these tackles any way they want to beat them. And the only counter to that is to have them run past Taylor going through the middle. That's the only way you're gonna beat them. Run through them. Run through them if you can. You
Yeah.
don't want them peeling their heads back and chasing Jones.
Yeah. I just think I'm taking Houston plus the points. I like what I'm seeing right now. This is a team that I was high-ish on coming into the season. I obviously the defense doesn't need to be explained any further. I think there's a little. Listen, I think that Daniel Jones. I'm really happy for him, and I'm happy for the year that he's had. I think what we saw, and I mean, you called it last week that the Chiefs are going to do what they can to bottle up Taylor. That was the game plan, and Jones was exposed a little bit, and I'm just curious to see what that looks like moving forward. The schedule really could. So as for this game, I'm taking Houston plus the points. I think it probably goes slightly under. I think it's a very hard fought game as far as that goes. But I'll take Houston plus the points. Long term, listen, man, that schedule really concerns me. It really does. And so if I'm gonna pick anyone to win the division, I don't trust Jacksonville or Houston. I do trust Houston more just from a defensive perspective, and I will never put long-term money on Lawrence Taylor
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence. I just won't do it. So plus 750 for Houston to win the division. I'll put a sprinkle.
Also,
the thing that I'm
little disrespectful for one of the top defenses.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, listen, if you think the Colts are going to win the division, that's fine. Yeah. Understood. You're 2 games up on Houston. But like you said, man, like they have to play the Texans twice, the Jags twice as well. And like Houston's schedule is by far easier than what the Colts have to go through. The Colts have division games and then the Seahawks and the Niners. Like that's a really tough stretch to the end of the season. And the Jags and the Texans both have an easier schedule by far. And so for me, for the Texans plus 750, worth a sprinkle. And if you're looking to miss the playoffs for the Colts, so either you take the Texans plus 750, or if you don't really know who's going to jump up and grab that, the Colts to miss the playoffs right now are plus 570. And I think that if the Texans beat the Colts, both of those numbers are going to drop down dramatically. So if before kickoff on Sunday, if you have any inclination of the Colts kind of giving this thing away, I think Texans plus 750 and the Colts to miss the playoffs plus 570. I think both of those bets are very interesting to me, and I'm not sure. I mean, take both. I don't think you can parlay them, but anyway, I think that's very curious, one way or another. And listen, what the schedule is going to do is if the Colts get through this schedule and they go to the playoffs, I'm already a believer in this team. I'm just saying the schedule, it's a tough one. If you get through this schedule and you make it to the playoffs, watch out for the Colts, man. Because this stretch is going, it's going to build some character for sure.
Battle tested for sure.
Oh, man. 100%. 100%. All right. Last game of the week, and then we will not move on. We'll wrap it up. and let everybody enjoy their Thanksgiving weekend. Before we finish off the show with our final game, let everybody know this show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles, promo code SPORTS10. For any sports card in the entire First Round Collectibles store, they have an ongoing sale up to 50% off selected cards. And with our promo code SPORTS10, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. That is up to 60% off selected cards in the First Round Collectibles store. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Tell them we sent you, promo code SPORTS10 for 10% off any order and up to 60% off selected cards. And Total Apex Sports, Total Apex Media, shout out to them as always for having us on board. All right, last pick, last game. Buffalo minus 3.5 in Pittsburgh. Buffalo minus 3.5, minus 104. Pittsburgh plus 3.5, minus 118. Minus 180 for the money line for the Bills, plus 152 for the Steelers. Over 46.5 at minus 105. Under is minus 115. Really curious about this game. Last week, the Bills losing to the Texans 23-19. Oh, so my mistake. The Steelers did lose to the Bears 31-28. Not on any platform. I got to get back on my TikTok game. I kind of dropped off that a little bit, but regardless, I didn't say this on any platform, but in my own little cocoon, I overreacted to the Bills' loss massively. I was really disappointed that they lost that game. I feel like this team has been inconsistent, to say the least. I also think it's a short week in Houston. That defense is a menace, and the Bills had an opportunity to win the game at the end of that fourth quarter. I just think that the better team won that night. So give the Bills a little bit of grace. This, to me, and you tell me what you think here. This to me is either Steelers plus 3.5 or Bills like minus 10.5. Like, I don't think the Bills win this game close. I think if it's close, if the Steelers can keep the team in it, I think that this is a very, very close football game. But there's a world where Buffalo unleashes. Now, it is in Pittsburgh. It is this Pittsburgh defense that's been very Jekyll and Hyde. I don't remember which one's good and which one's bad, but whatever one the bad one is, it's been more of that. I don't know. I also think I hear what you've been saying about the Steelers. This is where they historically fade away. I still think this is a Mike Tomlin coach team, and they're not just going to fold. I think I'm going Pittsburgh plus 3.5 here. But there's a part of me that smells a blowout in the water, and I'm not too sure. I don't, not that I'm in love with this Bills defense by any means, but Aaron Rodgers at the point of his career that he is at, and plus like hobbled. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm mixed about this one. It's either Steelers plus 3.5 close, which is where I'm leaning, or there's something telling me that Buffalo might just destroy them. What do you got in this game?
I got Pittsburgh plus 3.5 here.
Okay.
Listen, Aaron wanted to go last week. Doctors were saving him from himself, but he wanted to go last week. He was itching to go because of the fictitious part ownership he has of the Bears. Any place he's been to, whether it was with the Jets, whether it's here, he owns the Bears. Okay, he wanted to go last week, and that tells me that in having to sit last week, he's going to be even hungrier to win this week. Especially when you can see the division fading away. And listen, none of us are math majors, but it's not hard to figure out that this division isn't probably going to get a second team in the playoffs. So with that being said, the division is the way in. And they used to run it at some point this season, and here come the Ravens. So that tells me that the fire is going to be there. They need to get it done. And just to kind of frame this for you from the Bills' point of view, let me see if this paints a picture of a confident team. Brandon Cooks just went on waivers not too long ago. Immediately picked up by the Buffalo Bills. I'm looking at the depth chart. Already in as third wideout. I don't know if Coleman's going to play. He sat the last couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, over him missing a meeting. A week ago, quote unquote, supposedly, what I read was scuttlebutt that his benching wasn't well received by him, in the sense of it was just a meeting, not a big deal type deal, which is why he sat again last week.
Grow up.
Stretch.
Grow up.
So with that being said, and this hurts me deeply because FSU alum, right? So, you know,
I have him on my fantasy team.
I'm trying to be happy about my alumni. And listen, we're the most exciting 2-10 team in football. I'm just gonna say that. So that being said, I want to root for someone other than Jameis because he's not going to be playing for that much longer. With Dart about to be cleared from concussion protocol. So I say all that to say is Buffalo's a desperate team. Because if you're picking up Brandon Cooks off the street, you don't even know if he's cooked. No pun intended. You don't even know if he's cooked. You don't even know if his stats are a reflection of where he is in his career, or if it was just mismanagement by the last team he was on. So they're reaching at straws. Another thing, they could be without their 2 starting tackles. And what's a position you do not want to be hurting at when you're facing the Steelers? Tackle. Why? Highsmith, Watt on the edges. So with that being said, I think if they close Allen in the pocket, he's not going to be able to do the off-script stuff on the sides. They're going to funnel him inside the pocket. And guess what? No one's going to be open. No one has the ability to separate, which is why they picked up Cooks in the first place, because they're trying to find someone to separate from close coverage. So with that being said, I think this is going to be a tight one. I think Pittsburgh is going to force them into bad down and distances. I think it's going to be a lot of 3rd and longs. And if they're going to keep Allen outside of inside the pocket, I think it's going to spell trouble. So give me Pittsburgh plus 3.5. Also, give me the over on their rushing yards. Jaylen Warren over 64.5 rushing yards. Nothing's changed with that Bears defense. Ed Oliver's still out. Their run defense is still going to be crap. So I'm taking the best running back they have, which is Jaylen Warren. He should be somewhere in the 75 to 80 area.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's a big reason why I am taking Pittsburgh. And like I said, I do smell like I could see this going either way, but that's why I am ultimately taking Pittsburgh plus 3.5. Is that run defense for the Bills? It is what it is. And not only Warren, dude, as a former Eagle Super Bowl champion, Kenneth Gainwell is having a terrific season with the Steelers.
With little bit pieces that he's doing great.
Yeah, man. Yeah. His role is essentially the same that it was with the Eagles. And even before Barkley got there, he was never really given the main, but he was a very productive player for the Eagles for years. And so both those guys are, putting up numbers. And so I'm right there with you, man. Pittsburgh plus 3.5. I am right there with you. Before we close off the show, I wasn't going to do this, but you brought up Jameis Winston. Yeah. So I just want to say this. All right. Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Fields, Jacoby Brissett, JJ McCarthy. How do you pronounce this Saints guy? Shook. Tyler Shook.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston should be one of the 32 starters in the NFL.
Bro. The Saints could have won football games with him. A lot of Saints people are like, why did we ever get rid of this guy?
What are we doing?
Yeah.
As a fan, he is just so entertaining. Okay. We all know his sound bites, his dance after he caught that touchdown. That was something to behold. He's just, I think he caught the touchdown, right? Or did he run it in? He did.
It was an end around.
Yeah.
To Gunner, and Gunner threw the pass to him and stiff arms the guy on the way to the end zone. Like, come on, bro. He's must-see TV.
As a fan, this guy just needs to be involved. That Super Bowl last year was so... I'm not a Super Bowl media week guy. Even in sports in general, I don't really care about player interviews. I think... as much as we complain about what AJ Brown said or whatever, that is not the norm for especially in a hockey universe. But in a lot of just when you interview players, you don't really get much. There's a former radio host in Toronto, the great Bob McCowan. One reason why I'm sitting behind a microphone, just legend upon legend. If you're in Toronto and you're of my age or older, you know Bob McCowan, just a legend. And he had a rule on his show for 30 years. He did not interview players ever. He's like, what do I care? They're not going to say anything. I don't care. He never had players on his show, and it was awesome. I loved it.
Fingers crossed the Kachucks can, with their podcast, kind of open the door for some more personality.
Oh, yeah.
Express themselves.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just saying, don't really care what players have to say most of the time.
Right.
And him being involved in media week, but even just everyone knows. I love, it's just more fun when he's involved.
Yeah.
But on the field, I'm not saying that the Kansas City Chiefs should sit Patrick Mahomes for Jameis Winston. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the quarterback play that we have in this league. How is this guy not a starter? It's ridiculous, man. It's crazy. And sure, if you're the Saints, I'm sure management will argue we need to be, worse than what Jameis Winston can. Dude, there's a world where the Saints could make the playoffs in that stupid division with Jameis Winston. I just don't understand it, man.
Selfishly, I want him to be my QB2 for as long as he wants to play football.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I do agree, whoever teams are 27 to 32, 25 to 32, if you need a guy, Minnesota, if you need a guy to push your guy, you can do far worse than Jameis Winston.
And dude, I know that the Giants, that you guys have neighbors, okay? Incredible talent. You just said the Vikings, between Addison, obviously Justin Jefferson, what he could have done out there, I don't know, man. I love Jacoby Brissett. It's no disrespect to those names, Geno Smith, but I'm just saying, man,
my God, the Raiders. I didn't even. Oh my God, bro.
I will say that from your perspective, I hope that the Giants keep him, because if you're the Giants, okay, and I know that management office, they just do whatever they want. But listen, Dart is your future. You have your guy.
Yep.
I think it's great to have a veteran behind him that's not Russell Wilson. because everybody is going to be enamored with like, oh, like maybe Russ can give us a little bit of the old Russ or whatever. And he's a big presence. Well, and I know Jameis is a big presence as well, but Winston is like a warm presence. Like he's somebody who, even if deep on the inside, he's not happy to be a number 2, he will happily be a number 2. And he will lead from behind, right? And he'll be there, he'll support. And Jackson Dart, if you have Jameis Winston behind you, and this is no shot at Jameis, I love Jameis, I'm just saying, if you're Jackson Dart, you know that the Giants believe in you as your guy, as like their guy. You're not looking over your shoulder saying, oh no, I had a bad week, Jameis is going to take my job. But to have a guy like Jameis behind you, I think is key. I also think Jackson Dart, you think this is the first time he's going to be put on concussion protocol? The way that guy plays? No way. You're going to probably lose a game or two every season until this guy figures it out.
He's out of slide, brother. Yeah, they've been telling him since before he came in the league, bro.
Yeah, dude. He's just one of those quarterbacks.
Like, yo, we need you to. Why aren't you sliding, bro?
Yeah, man. So if you're going to like lose Jackson Dart for a game or two and put Jameis back there, I have no problem with it. All right. Yeah. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate you, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on X, Total Apex, or Solder on Sports. We appreciate you. One last time, promo code SPORTS10 for 10% off any order in the First Round Collectibles store, up to 60% off selected cards. Promo code SPORTS10, FirstRoundCollectibles.com, and Total Apex Sports, Total Apex Media. Get everything you need to know about the Thanksgiving slate on Total Apex Media. Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, they have you covered. Also, Total Apex Media, pop culture, TV, all that good stuff. Everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Have a great week. We will see you next time.